you doing? Welcome back to our How to VGC series. Today I'm going to talk about Pokemon's field effects. And these are things that will affect the entire field, every Pokemon out at once. The first one that we'll talk about is very common in competitive. It's Trick Room. So what Trick Room does is it reverses the move order within each priority bracket. So Pokemon moves have priority numbers. Most moves have a priority of 0, meaning they're just going to go at the normal time. Some moves have a positive priority. So things like Follow Me, Helping Hand, Fake Out. These are moves that usually attack first. They have a positive priority somewhere between 1 and 7. And moves with a higher priority are always going to go before moves with a lower priority, even within Trick Room. What Trick Room does is it reverses the move order within those priority brackets, so that slower Pokemon with a lower speed stat, will go above before Pokemon with a faster speed stat. So that works even within each priority bracket. So let's say 2 Pokemon are trying to use Fake Out at the same time. Normally, the faster Pokemon would get Fake Out off first, and then the slower Pokemon would try to Fake Out second. With Trick Room in effect, the slower Pokemon would actually get to Fake Out first, and then the faster Pokemon would have to Fake Out second. And this works with normal moves as well. Pokemon that are slower and using just a regular move with a 0 priority will go before Pokemon that are normally faster, using a regular 0 priority move. Now, Trick Room lasts for 5 turns, and the turn that you use Trick Room counts as a turn. So there's really only 4 turns of Trick Room effect when you use Trick Room. Now, also something to keep in mind is that if you use Trick Room again while it's already in effect, it will actually undo the Trick Room effect and things will go back to normal. Something else to keep in mind is that items that affect the order of priority brackets is going to override Trick Room. So things like Lagging Tail, which make a Pokemon go last in their priority bracket, those Pokemon will still go last in their priority bracket, regardless of their speed stat. So those items kind of override the effects of Trick Room for the Pokemon that's holding them. The same thing works for items like Quick Claw, which let a Pokemon go first in their priority bracket. The same is true here. That Pokemon will go first regardless of its speed stat, even if Trick Room is in effect. It's also important to know that Trick Room has a priority of -7, which is the lowest priority you can have. So it will be used after basically any move. Next up is Tailwind. So Tailwind doubles the speed stat of the user and all of the ally Pokemon for 4 turns. Keep in mind that this stacks with increased speed stat by stages. So for example, if a Pokemon has used Max Airstream and it has a 1 stage increase in its speed stat, Tailwind will turn that into effectively like a 2-stage increase because Tailwind stacks. So let's say I have a Pokemon that has a speed of 100, just to make this easy. It has a 1-stage increase from a move like Max Airstream. So a 1-stage increase is a 50% increase in a stat. So if I have a 1-stage speed stat increase, my speed goes from 100 to 150. Now I've also set Tailwind, so that happens after. My speed is now 150 and I'm in Tailwind, which doubles my speed. So now my speed is 300. If I didn't have that 1-stage increase, if I was still just base 100 speed and then I was in Tailwind, I would only be 200. So that means that 1-stage increase basically gets doubled into a 2-stage increase as long as Tailwind is in effect. Next up is the terrains. So terrains are kind of like if the ground was changed into a different type of ground. And it will only affect Pokemon that are on the ground. For example, flying type Pokemon are not affected by terrain unless they're under the influence of the move Gravity. So first up is Misty Terrain, and it prevents Pokemon from being afflicted by non-volatile status conditions. And you'll remember from last episode, that's things like burn, poison, paralyze, sleep, all of these things. If a Pokemon is drowsy due to yawn and Misty Surge happens before it falls asleep, it will be prevented from falling asleep. Additionally, rest will fail if it's used by a Pokemon on Misty Terrain because it requires the Pokemon to fall asleep in order to heal. The only volatile status condition that's protected against by Misty Terrain is confusion. So if a Pokemon is on Misty Terrain, it cannot be confused. Also, Misty Terrain will have the power of Dragon-type moves used against effective Pokemon. So And that's regardless of whether the user of the move is affected by Misty Terrain or not. So this means so long as the target Pokemon is grounded, it doesn't matter if you're grounded or not, Misty Terrain will still have the power of Dragon-type moves used against it. So next up is Grassy Terrain. And what Grassy Terrain does is that at the end of each turn, the terrain will restore the HP of every affected Pokemon, meaning every grounded Pokemon, by 1/16 of its maximum HP. It's also going to boost the power of Grass-type moves used, again, by affected Pokemon, meaning grounded Pokemon, by 50%, regardless of whether the target of the move is affected by Grassy Terrain. So this is kind of the opposite of Misty Terrain. Before, it would have the power of Dragon-type moves for grounded Pokemon, regardless of whether the user was affected by the terrain, and now what it'll do is it'll boost the power of Grass-type moves for the user, regardless of whether the target is affected by Grassy Terrain or not. Additionally, if Grassy Terrain is in effect, unless the target is in the semi-invulnerable turn of a move, so this is things like Dig or Fly, for example, the power of Bulldoze, Earthquake, and Magnitude are going to be halved. Next up is Psychic Terrain. So what Psychic Terrain does is it prevents affected Pokemon, meaning grounded Pokemon, from being hit by opponents' moves with increased priority. So this includes priority moves like Fake Out, Sucker Punch, but also moves that get boosted in priority with Prankster, Gale Wings, or Triage. Psychic Terrain also works similarly to Grassy Terrain in that it'll boost the power of Psychic-type moves used by affected Pokemon by 30%. Another interesting thing, though, is that the move Expanding Force gets a 1.5 times power increase, not just a 30% power increase. And if it's a double battle, the move will change from being a single target move to a spread move that affects both Pokemon. And the last terrain type to talk about is Electric Terrain. And this terrain keeps Pokemon from gaining the non-volatile status Sleep. So while Misty Terrain blocked all non-volatile statuses, Electric Terrain only blocks Sleep. Additionally, just like with Misty Terrain, if an affected Pokemon is already drowsy due to Yawn, but Electric Terrain comes into play before it has the chance to fall asleep, it will be prevented from falling asleep and the drowsy effect will end. Also, just like with Misty Terrain, Rest will fail if it's used by a grounded Pokemon on Electric Terrain because the move requires you to be able to gain the sleep status in order to heal you. And similar to Psychic and Grassy Terrain, Electric Terrain will boost the power of Electric-type moves used by affected, read grounded, Pokemon by 30%, regardless of whether the target of the move is grounded or not. Additionally, Pokemon with the ability Surge Surfer, like Raichu for example, will have their speed stat doubled when on Electric Terrain, and Pokemon with the move Rising Voltage will have its base power doubled from 70 to 140 if used on a target on Electric Terrain. So that's important to keep in mind. Electric Terrain's 30% boost just reads whether you, the user, are grounded or not. Rising Voltage requires the target to be grounded in order for the base power to be doubled from 70 to 140. Next up is Weather. So Weather is another field effect which will, again, affect all Pokemon on the field. There's 4 types of weather. So the first up is Harsh Sun, Sunny Weather. What Sunny Weather mainly does is it increases the damage of Fire-type moves by 50%, and it decreases the damage of Water-type moves by 50%. But it also allows 2-turn charging moves like Solar Beam and Solar Blade to be used instantly, meaning it removes that first turn of charge. It's also going to activate certain abilities on your Pokemon, so things like Chlorophyll, Dry Skin, Leaf Guard, all of those things will be activated in Sun. Additionally, as long as the weather is sunny, Pokemon cannot become frozen. And it's also going to lower the accuracy of moves like Thunder and Hurricane to 50%. Instead of their standard 70%. So Rain is kind of the opposite of Sun in a lot of ways. So Rain increases the damage of Water-type moves by 50%, and decreases the damage of Fire-type moves by 50%, and instead of lowering the accuracy of Thunder and Hurricane, it actually allows them to bypass the accuracy check, meaning they will not miss. It'll also activate a few abilities like Dry Skin, Rain Dish, Swift Swim, things like that. And it halves the power of Solar Beam and Solar Blade. Next up is Hail. So what Hail is going to do is it's going to damage all Pokemon on the field by 1/16 of its maximum HP unless that Pokemon is Ice type or it has an ability like Ice Body, Magic Guard, Overcoat, or if that Pokemon is holding the item Safety Goggles, because Safety Goggles removes all weather damage. Hail will also do a similar thing as Rain to Hurricane and Thunder by allowing Blizzard to bypass accuracy checks. So while it's hailing, Blizzard will always hit. Similarly to Rain, it will also have the power of Solar Beam and Solar Blade, but it also has a benefit in that it allows the move Aurora Veil to be used, even though Aurora Veil will stay up even after hail ends. And the last weather that we need to talk about is Sandstorm. So at the end of the turn, Sandstorm will damage every Pokemon on the field for 1/16 of its maximum HP unless that Pokemon is Rock, Steel, or Ground type. Or if it has an ability like Sand Force, Sand Rush, Sand Veil, or it's holding Safety Goggles. Additionally, Sandstorm will raise the special defense of all Rock-type Pokemon by 50%, which can be very crucial sometimes. And just like all of the other weather types, barring Sun, it will have the power of Solar Beam and Solar Blade. The next type of field effect is something we call screens. And these are moves that put up kind of damage-reducing barriers for all the Pokemon on one side of the field. So there's two types of screens. There's Reflect and Light Screen. And they do exactly the same thing, except Reflect will reduce damage from physical moves and Light Screen will reduce damage from special moves. And so these screens will have the damage done to the Pokemon on one side of the field. Now, similar to the way that spread moves will reduce damage when there's multiple Pokemon on the target side of the field, these screens will reduce protection when there's multiple Pokemon on one side of the field. So if there's only one Pokemon on your side of the field, then Reflect and Light Screen will reduce damage by their respective move type by 50%. But if there are multiple Pokemon on your side of the field, then all of them will still be protected by the screens, but the damage will only be reduced by 1/3 instead of 1/2. Additionally, screens are going to be ignored by self-inflicted confusion damage as well as critical hits. So critical hits and confusion damage will ignore screens. Basically, the effect will not be there at all. It's also important to keep in mind that screens can be removed from the field if an opponent uses Brick Break or Defog or Psychic Feints on it, unless the Pokemon behind the screen protects against that move or the move misses. Now, screens are normally in effect for 5 turns after they're set up, but if a Pokemon holding Light Clay sets the screen up, then the screen will stay up for 8 turns instead of 5. And we talked about the move Aurora Veil earlier when we talked about weather. Aurora Veil basically allows you to set both screens, Light Screen and Reflect, up in 1 turn. So Aurora Veil reduces all damage by physical and special moves by either half or by 1/3. Now, you can have Aurora Veil active at the same time as Reflect and Light Screen, but those effects do not stack. So that was just a very long list of field effects and what they do and some ideas of maybe what they might do competitively. I hope this video helped and that you were able to learn something. I know that I learned some of the intricacies of how these field effects work by doing research for this video. So feel free to leave a comment down below if you have any questions. I'll also leave the link to my Twitch channel down in the description. So if you'd like to come check us out while we're live and ask questions live, you can do that as well. Feel free to like this video or subscribe to the channel if you liked this video and you want to see more like it. Liking the video tells me that you want to see more videos like this, and subscribing makes sure that you'll see the next video when I do put one up. So that's all for now. I'll see y'all later. Bye!